Hello everyone, today's video is going to be about the 3 most broken items in 7.32e. I'm going to be talking about what makes these items broken, how you can be using them, and how you can prepare for when your opponents have them. Let's go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, we're going to get this one right out of the way. The one that you guys have been hearing all about. 7.32e, it's hammer time, baby. So Meteor Hammer got a buff, which makes it go from a total channel time of 2.5 seconds to a channel time of 2 seconds, which makes it land 2.5 seconds after you use it rather than the previous 3. The reason why this is such a significant change is because there's a lot of heroes in the early game that have approximately 2.5 second stuns. So now, before heroes have any mobility items or mantas or BKBs, you can stun them into the Meteor Hammer. It's the same item as it was before in regards to towers, but now it gives these heroes an extra 510 damage, ones that generally lack the damage to kill you in the laning phase. But there's definitely downsides to this item. So let's just get a full picture of what this item gives. It's a nice early game regen item. The buildup is really nice for the laning phase with the Ring of Health as well as the Void Stone, and it gives 8 all stats for 2300 gold. That's about an ultimate orb, but it gives you a bunch of stuff on top of it. All the reasons us carry players generally like to buy Lincolns later on in the game. It just feels good to have regen and stats. But it is a 2300 gold item. So people are asking me, do I buy this item every single game? And the answer is absolutely not. What I want to tell you guys is that this item is a luxury item. What a luxury item means is that it makes you do what you are currently doing better. It doesn't add anything to what you're doing, it just makes you do what you're doing better. So the only reason that Meteor Hammer is not a luxury item, which was always the case prior to this patch, is that it kills tier 1 towers. So if you're a hero in the off lane, like Sand King or Mars, like just a generic stunning hero, that doesn't have tower taking threat and your lineup is lacking tower taking, then Meteor Hammer is a really strong consideration right now, because not only is it good if you're stunning somebody, but it also helps open up the map by killing the enemy's towers in a way you couldn't have with your lineup previously. So I will say about Meteor Hammer is it definitely enables people to pick less pushing heroes. So if you see that in your draft, it is a nice way to solve it, even as a mid or a support. I would say carry is pretty much the only role that I wouldn't look to be buying Meteor Hammer, because you're not generally trying to buy items that take towers. So let's get back to what makes this a luxury item. The reason why luxury items can be dangerous is because you may need some item that allows you to do new things, such as a Blink Dagger in the off lane, such as Boots of Travel in the mid lane to be active on the map, or an item like Witchblade in the mid lane. These items give you new things. They give you slows, they give you mobility, they give you the ability to show up to fights. Even like an item like Spirit Vessel lets you take down tanky targets because they can't regen. The issue with Meteor Hammer is that it's really good if somebody has to walk into you, you stun them, and then you follow it up with the Meteor Hammer. So my best description in one sentence of what makes it a good Meteor Hammer game, ignoring the tower taking aspect, is if you are ahead in your lane or close to even, and the only reason the other guy is allowed to lane is because you have a stun, but you don't have the damage to kill him. So the Meteor Hammer basically puts you over the edge to bully people out of lane. So I think this is really important because I've had plenty of people in my games, I've tried it myself, who build Meteor Hammer when they're losing their lane in the off lane, or just when they're generally behind. And if you're behind, it's very difficult to walk up to towers, because the opponent can probably just kill you along the way. And it also means that it's hard to play around you because people can kind of kite you, because if you're not playing up in their face and you're behind, they can kind of just push the creep wave out and ignore you. So Meteor Hammer becomes a very lackluster item because it's 2300 gold. Compare that to a Blink Dagger or something of the like, and you can't do anything with it. So be wary of buying it when you're really far behind, because you'll make yourself even more useless for a long period of time. Shout out to all the people in my games, as well as my former self at the start of the patch. Now talking about dealing with it. This is pretty brief. I would say it's unreliable to stay in your lane this patch, especially in the carry and mid role. There are a lot of heroes like OD, like these stunning offlaners, that become impossible to lane against anymore. So either picking heroes with natural dispels or mobility to get away from the Meteor Hammer, or heroes that are content moving around the map and jungling early. This is ultra essential because I believe the Meteor Hammer creates this dynamic where if both heroes would want to lane together, you threaten the other guy as the carry, say you're something like a Monkey King, suddenly you're getting stunned into Meteor Hammer and taking 800 damage. So these heroes that are not very good at jungling, lane dominators that have no built-in dispel, I would say are very weak against Meteor Hammer. So I don't want to be playing Weaver. I don't want to be playing Monkey King. You kind of get my drift. That's going to be all we have today for Meteor Hammer. Next up, we have the second most broken item in 7.32e. You guys guessed it, perhaps. Feel the burn, baby, because it is Radiance. So what they did in 7.32e is that they made Sacred Relic cost 350 gold less. So Radiance as an item went from 5,050 gold to 4,700. So I think this is an item that is commonly misunderstood based on the questions that I have received. So I'm going to talk to you guys a lot about Radiance as a whole, as a general item. So I believe Radiance conceptually is a completely broken item. The ability to basically not do anything except exist and be doing 60 damage to everyone around you. In 5 seconds, you're doing a 300 damage nuke to everyone around you for no mana, and you could have been moving the entire time. So I consider it like free damage, as long as you are alive, and as long as you're allowed to be near them where you're not dying. So right off the bat, we think of the fact that Radiance is really good on tanky heroes, because the only requirement for it to be effective is that you are close to people and they're not killing you. Secondly, the biggest weakness of Radiance historically has been that the build-up is atrocious. If you compare it to Maelstrom, which you get the Javelin at 1100 gold, or Battle Fury, where you get that early Ring of Health for sustain, the issue with Radiance is that generally the first item you go for is the Sacred Relic, which costs 3400 gold, and you're usually building the Radiance similar to the Battle Fury, where it's the first major item you're going for. So from like 7 minutes until 15 minutes, you have literally no new items in your inventory. So that has always made Radiance a very hard item to pull off. However, you can see now, hopefully, why this patch was such a significant buff, because you're getting it about a minute earlier, that Sacred Relic especially. And 55 damage on a lot of heroes that buy it, not that bad when they get it. So that power spike coming that much earlier is really nice, and it's drastically impactful to the power level of the item. People ask me, when do I go Battle Fury, when do I go Radiance? These are very comparable items because Radiance is 4,700 gold, Battle Fury is 4,100 gold, and they're both farming items. The biggest thing about Radiance is that it's really good on durable heroes that don't mind getting kited. The biggest thing about Radiance heroes that makes them strong, like the type of hero you want to be playing, is tanky guys that have to be on top of the creep wave in order to farm it, but their biggest issue is that they just farm it pretty slow and that they can kind of just get ignored. And because Radiance makes you no longer ignorable, because 60 damage per second, especially like in the mid game, 15 minutes in, it just destroys people. So the number ones that come to mind, it's like the 3 perfect ones, are Abaddon, Wraith King, and Alchemist. You know, shout out to a hero like Spectre, kind of fits the same category. Heroes that generally rely on right-clicking for their main source of damage, not so much. Heroes like PA, Ursa, Troll Warlord, you get the drift. These heroes generally do get kited, and they do need to be able to right-click people. So what's so important to understand about Radiance is not only the type of heroes that build it, but also how it kind of progresses throughout the game. So Radiance, even though it has a reduced effect of only 35 damage per second on illusions, it synergizes really well with illusions. Not necessarily illusion heroes. I would say the only illusion hero that builds Radiance is Naga, but heroes that naturally like to build Manta, I think, are even better with Radiance. Because what happens is, for instance, Spectre and Abaddon, the issue with these heroes is that they benefit from Manta significantly. Curse of the Avernus works on illusions, and Desolate works on illusions. But if you just go Manta, and you send Manta illusions at creep waves to farm them, without Radiance, those illusions aren't really killing anything. They're not reliably killing that creep wave. So Manta alone feels good for fights, but it doesn't help you farming. But to have the progression of Radiance into Manta not only makes you a threat in fights, but it drastically increases your speed of farm on the map and also lets you take dangerous areas that you previously wouldn't have been able to take. So that's why I believe, for instance, that Alchemist and Wraith King, while they fit the bill of being a nice Radiance hero, are simply not nearly as good as a hero like Abaddon, because Abaddon just loves building Manta. If you can get the Radiance Manta, that is the absolute dream, because it covers everything. You're generally pretty survivable in fights, you're able to farm the map really fast, and you also just move around. So you have just general utility that covers a lot of bases that are necessary in the game of Dota 2. Let's just talk about fights when we think of Radiance. What is the difference between Radiance, Battle Fury, and Maelstrom? Battle Fury and Maelstrom, as we've kind of already said, require you to right-click people in order for it to be impactful. Radiance just requires you to simply exist. What that means is if you're durable, which fits the bill of Radiance, that you want to have long fights. So the key to beating Radiance is to either out-sustain the Radiance with items like Greaves and Pipes so that the burn effect is rather negligible during the duration of the fight, or to just simply kill the guy really fast who has the Radiance. So heroes like Ursa, for instance, I talked about being good in the meta, generally don't mind playing against Radiance because the 60 damage per second doesn't hurt all that much if they kill you in 3 seconds. So this is the way you want to deal with Radiance. And if you're thinking about theory crafting if a hero should buy Radiance or not, I want you guys to use this as an opportunity to ask yourself, how does this hero fight? How long do fights generally go where this hero is going to win? And that's why you see an example like PA or Bloodseeker don't generally benefit from Radiance all that much because they try to kill somebody at the very start of the fight, and they want it to be quick. They want the BKB duration that they have to end the fight quick. I don't generally like Radiance all that much with heroes that rely heavily on BKB. You're seeing the impact here. BKB usually means the fight takes 9 seconds or less. Radiance prefers the fight to go much longer. But a hero like Alchemist, I do believe that is the build. It's just, I don't think it makes for the perfect Radiance hero. Next up, last but not least, we have the Boots of Bearing. So what they did to Boots of Bearing was that it no longer has charges. We're going to keep this summary short and sweet. The biggest weakness that Boots of Bearing had previously was that Drums was a really nice item that would run out of charges. If you went Drums early on in the game, you would want to inevitably upgrade to Boots of Bearing when you were running out of charges. But if you got the Boots of Bearing too early, then you would also run out of charges for the Boots of Bearing. So I'm of the opinion that Boots of Bearing are now in previous patch 7.32D, Guardian Greaves territory, where I think pretty much every single team should have one. Now, I honestly think you don't have to buy Tranquil Boots in order to be a Boots of Bearing hero. I've now played 3 or 4 offlane games where I just go phase Drums and then go back for Boots of Bearing sometime in the next 10 minutes. Because if you think about phase Boots plus Boots of Bearing, for instance, phase Boots give you 45 movement speed, Boots of Bearing actually give you 65, so it's an extra 20, and then the Aura gives you an extra 20. So it's actually an extra 40 movement speed. So even though it's 2 sets of boots, it's not redundant in the sense that the movement speed does not overlap in some way. So you shouldn't be afraid to go Power Treads or Phase on a core into Boots of Bearing. That's how strong I think they are, as long as you think Drums is like a good follow-up item in the early game for you. So I especially like this on Int offlaners and Strength offlaners. The only thing to really consider about Boots of Bearing is if you can be a hero that buys it. We think of 5 positions like CM with her ultimate that uses the Boots of Bearing really well, and then we think of heroes that kind of need like Glimmers and 4 stabs and stuff to be impactful, and so Boots of Bearing will go down in value for you. But heroes that can just kind of fit this into their kit willy-nilly if they're support, I think will always go up in value this patch. The important thing to note is that the 1.5 seconds of immunity to slows from the Boots of Bearing is absolutely broken against certain heroes like Darkseer Wall, Venomancer slows. We're talking about heroes that rush Diffusal. If you get Boots of Bearing at a similar time as like a Ricky who's rushing Diffusal, you or your teammates that are near you will just never die to the Diffusal, because the second somebody gets Diffusal purge, you just instantly pop Boots of Bearing and they run away. And that 1.5 seconds of virtual haste is always going to be enough to, it's basically a 1.5 second Centaur ulti. So yes, guys, please keep this in mind. These are my 3, BSJ pledged broken items of 7.32E. Hope you guys feel like you have a better understanding of Meteor Hammer and Radiance coming out of this video. And I also hope you guys think about how you can fit Boots of Bearing into your kit based on whatever role you are playing. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next time.